You mentioned to me before
Hmm.
that there's an Ubisoft video game, Skull and Bones, correct?
I think
That
that's what it is. Yeah, Skull and Bones.
we thought it was dead and it
Oh
had just
God.
gone away because they started talking about it years ago. I don't even know how many years ago that was. Like 4 years ago?
Dude,
5?
it's gotta be like 2017, I wanna say maybe 2017 or 2018 actually. It
Like
popped up it popped up pretty much around, um, I wanna say, like, we just finished playing
Black
maybe
Sails.
not Black Sails, it was way later after Black Sails. It was after, I think Origins, the very first Origins came out. At Skull and
Mm,
Bones, they were showing Skull and Bones because they were gonna bring out, I think the next one was, not Odyssey, yeah, right?
yeah.
It was, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so it was around the same time, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool," they're gonna totally put out the pirate game finally that everybody's been wanting from essentially Black Sails, because that was the coolest shit in Black Sails. You'd be able to just, you know, go around the entire map and just start fights with everybody in a pirate ship, and now it's probably gonna be like this multiplayer online crazy shit, like, out of control.
So in that universe, I want to just kind of, now that we're there, I'll back up and just talk about Assassin's Creed as a whole and
Yeah.
kind of how it ended up where it ended up. So
Oh, man.
the first game, gameplay wise, was not very good. It had some cool stuff going on crowd wise, and they had made a little open world that was kind of cool for what it was. Um, but the tasks in the game were just horribly repetitive, and it was it was pretty dumpy gameplay wise. They had some cool fight mechanics going on, but pure gameplay, it was maybe a 5 out of 10, if that. Where there was some good elements here and there, but overall it was not very good. But what it was good at was the story was amazing. It
Or
had
it was
tons of
incredible.
mystery. It was full of conspiracy theories. They had
Mhm.
doctored real world images of titans of industry and the corporate robber barons,
Yep,
all holding ancient alien artifacts, like a picture of Henry Ford with the apple in his hand down low.
yep.
And the writer was a writer from Harvard. So it was really well thought out, really well researched, and you spent a good amount of time confined in this cell, and you were trying to figure out, why am I in this cell? What is going on? And you kept encountering these really strange symbology and random weird conspiracy minded clues, and the whole thing was really intriguing and exciting and kept you locked in. And then you get out into the learn more about the overarching plot and everything that was going on, and that was really good too. And so the gameplay was almost secondary to what made this game great. And the lore that you learned when you went out into the rule is that there was two schools of thought of people. There was the assassins, where everything was permitted, chaos essentially, and then there was the Templar Order, which was just that. It was installing order to bring about peace. So they wanted rigid hierarchies with lots of law and order in the rigid hierarchy to bring about control and peace so that civilization could survive. The assassin's point of view was, no one should be controlled by anyone else, and everything is permitted. But that's not as much of what it sounds like. What the lore was really speaking to was not just that everything permitted meant do whatever you want. It was really a metaphor for choice, as far as you should have experience in the world and think about every choice you have thoughtfully so that you make the right decision based on what's right to do in the world. And that everything was permitted as long as you were righteous about your thinking. So it wasn't necessarily it was anarchy in its truest sense, basically. So basically, anarchy versus totalitarianism, where the Templar order was more about a strict hierarchy where those would be elevated fit when they see fit, and strict law and order shall be maintained so that civilization and peace can happen. While the assassins were more Nietzsche-minded, anarchic in thinking, and it was this really cool dynamic where every time you killed somebody in the game, to present you with a little tiny story from the kill that made you kind of question those two things. Like, is the order so bad? Or is the chaos important so freedom can exist? Because that was the point the assassins were making, is you need to have choice for freedom and liberty, because that's the only place that freedom and liberty exists. And if this crushing order is deciding everything for you, you really have no freedom and liberty. And so that was always in question for every kill. And that's what drew everyone to this game in after the first game. It wasn't gameplay, it was story. Then Assassin's Creed 2, we're introduced to Ezio. Amazing character, amazing theme in it. Ezio's so cool. We're in Italy. The engine is better. The fighting is better. Assassin's Creed 2 was a epic game when you started and got into it. Same writing as well. Now we get deeper into this lore. We're starting to explore this dynamic between anarchy and order. And it's just great. Ezio's a stud too. We're sleeping with all the ladies. We're running around causing mischief in the city. Where and all the lores too rooted in this really cool, like, Medici banking families and all these other real world powerful figures who were the bad guys because they maintained these ancient aliens, which gave them power and control of the population. Uh, and and that was the other cool tie into this, is it was talking about this advanced race of humans that had this incredible technology that was hidden throughout time, and the way that you found this technology was to jack in. They basically created a machine that broke your DNA down to zeros, so that you could go into your DNA and experience it like a video game from any of your ancestors in your past. So basically, that your entire ancestry was coded in your DNA, and they broke down your DNA into zeros, and then that allowed you to go in and play through your history in VR, essentially, which was the Animus machine in the game. So, like, these are some of the dopest concepts ever, really, in sci-fi. Where I mean, there's definitely other people talking about this sort of thing at the time, but they quantified it in, like, here's the lore, here's the badass story, and we're like off and running. At this time, Creed is booming. It's one of the most popular games. Every iteration is better than the one before it. That's another thing. When the sequel came out, it was cooler than the one before. Ezio
Yeah.
was more badass, cooler game mechanics, more things to do. Um, and though the tasks around the city were repetitive, as far as go collect all the X,
But do
run
you
from.
remember when it came to those? Do you remember how long it took for the sequels to come out? It
Yeah,
wasn't every single year. It was like every other year, every 2 years.
yeah,
And then
2 or
it
3 years.
became and then
Yeah,
it became every single year. Oh, it's the
yeah.
new Assassin's Creed. Oh, it's a new Assassin's Creed. And it just and that's when we get
Yeah.
to where you're about to get to.
Well, so we roll out of Ezio. The story is amazing. We got ancient aliens. We got traveling back in time through DNA. The battle between order and chaos is happening, and it's just shaping. The main character Desmond's amazing, and then we get into Assassin's Creed 3, and this is the height of the series, where they have the best artists, the best developers, the best writing, taking hold of the story at its. And this to me is the best Assassin's Creed. You're this badass Native American Radamangadan, and you're built like a linebacker with a hatchet, just taking out the British. It is awesome. I played through it just recently again, and basically 100%ed the whole game again for like the third time. But anyways, 3 is this amazing story, and they wrap up this initial story that was started in such a elegant, epic, exciting way. By the time you finish 3, it's like you're spent, like, oh, this is, and this game's old enough that I'm gonna just spoil it or whatever. Desmond, the main character, dies at the end to save the universe from a impending doom that's coming toward planet Earth. He activates ancient alien technology to save us all in this epic journey that you've been on.